Well, as I say, joining me now from Athens is the Greek International Economic Affairs Minister, Konstantinos Papadopoulos. And a very good morning to you, Mr. Papadopoulos. Are you confident now that the Greek government can offer the assurances to Europe on the cuts and indeed the structural reforms that are needed to release this next bailout package?
I'm confident, especially after the vote last Sunday in Parliament, where the terms of the new loan agreement were overwhelmingly passed, and the signs are that the Eurozone finance ministers will accept Greece's assurances that we will be able to implement the program.
Okay, but implementing the program, as has been much discussed, involves even deeper cuts, those structural reforms I referred to as well. Is it the case that Greece will now never be able to grow its way out of these problems with such a long-term austerity program in prospect?
I know the views regarding austerity, but this is not austerity for austerity's sake. It's to make the country more competitive. Firstly, via making salary levels more consistent with productivity levels, because as you may know, during the past 12 years approximately, wages and salaries have grown out of line with productivity. So the effort is to bring down these salary levels to the levels of near the Spanish levels. The other aspect is to contain costs in the public sector, which, as you probably know, has expanded greatly in the last few years to the point where it cannot sustain itself. And that's where the cuts come in, to make the government budget balanced, to restore balance in the government budget. That's why it's so important to proceed with these cuts. And hopefully by 2013, the government will have achieved a primary balance. And the growth will come from having a private sector which is more competitive and a public sector which isn't such a draw on national resources.
But proceed with those cuts. At what cost, though, to Greek society? We've seen now for many months and indeed years the problems manifested on the streets. Are you sure that this will not, as some commentators are saying, go on, continue to threaten democracy itself in Greece?
Well, I think that's stretching it a little bit. What we saw last Sunday, those horrible scenes of buildings ablaze, those you cannot confuse with the reactions of good Athenian people who actually saw their shops set on fire, cinemas set on fire. That is not Greeks, Athenians protesting. It is a small group of anarchists. I know that shopkeepers also are suffering, but like I said, these are the effects of trying to restructure an economy that was largely based on government spending into an economy which is more based on the private sector. And unfortunately, this can't be done smoothly, especially if you have very short time spans within which to do it.
But given that anger on the streets, and I know the determination of the Greek government and the majority of Greek politicians to stay within the Eurozone, despite that being discussed as one option, even if Greece stays within the Eurozone, can it ever become and remain a wholehearted member of that union, given so much that has been said, particularly about the Germans?
Well, these are passing phases. You can imagine how any country, any nation would react in the face of such severe measures. I think, all things considered, it's still very, very encouraging that 70% of Greeks are in favor of staying in the Eurozone. Only 15 claim that the drachma option would be better. This is very, very encouraging and quite surprising, actually, under the circumstances.
Okay, Mr. Papadopoulos, thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Konstantinos Papadopoulos, the Greek Minister for International Economic Affairs, speaking to us, as you can see.